What is up, guys? The Strong Boys 19 here. So, welcome back to another brand new live stream. And I was actually going to do this live stream originally on my laptop, but I thought I would be deciding to start my live stream with this mobile phone that I am using. This is the same mobile that I use to record my videos with, and I had to flip the camera to the opposite direction instead of flipping the camera to see me on screen because everything looks completely reversed. So I'm not actually sure if if I'm actually in a good position. So I am going to have a look at myself on the screen just to be sure, and I will have a look at the chat in front of me on my laptop this time instead of looking at myself streaming with my webcam. So I'm going to see if everything's good to go. Oh, and also I apologize for that little awkward bit on the corner during this beginning of the stream. But it looks really good from where I am at. So let me know if the picture quality and audio quality is really good, because I would like to get this going as very comfortably as I can. So please let me know if you are watching this. So as you can see from the title of the stream, this is going to be a twofer, two different things in one stream. So I'm going to be showing you guys what I've purchased throughout this entire month of August. And I was originally going to be doing a separate video after this stream, but I thought, you know what, since that I am live streaming, I just thought I would like to show you guys what I've purchased, and I'll show you them on stream instead of a separate video. And plus, I am not free at all to do a video tomorrow, so I thought I might as well do this update during the stream, and after that, we're just going to hang out. So I will be streaming for a couple of hours. So if there's anything you want to say and ask me about music related stuff, please feel free to do that on the chat, so that we are going to, have a good time as per usual. Because the last live stream I had a very, very good time with. So I will be wrapping the live stream up right at 6 o'clock. And for those that are not here, don't worry, this live stream will be posted to my channel as I have kept the previous ones. So, anyways, this stream is going to be an update, but doing it live for the first and maybe the only time. And then we're just going to hang out. So, by the way, the 28th of August, which is today, marks the 20th anniversary of Slipknot's second album, Iowa. And I have done an album review on the album with two different special guests, which are Sedition Through Scorns, aka Jake, and Richard Metal Fan, aka Richard. So if you are a Slipknot fan like myself, then please check out the album review with Iowa. And I also did the review for the first album. So I am halfway through the discography of Slipknot's albums with Joey Jordison credited when he was with the band. So anyways, I am going to show you guys the albums that I have purchased first on CD, as I've been purchasing a lot at HMV, and some of them I have ordered online as well, but this is going to be in no particular order, as I usually do with my last update videos. So they are in random piles. So I'm just going to get started. First pile coming up. Oh, jeez. So the first three albums are from one of my very top favorite bands of all time, and this is King Crimson. This is the album called Discipline. Now, this album, I was absolutely discovering this for the very first time a few months back. I was really diving into the later King Crimson albums, including Beat to Three of a Perfect Pair, The Construction of Light, etc. And I'm halfway through my King Crimson CD collection, and most of the albums that I will be purchasing are in part of the 30th anniversary remasters, and I love this album. This album is actually going to be into my top 5 favorite King Crimson albums. So this is an album that I would actually listen to quite a lot, as I do love the albums like Lark's Tongues in Aspic to In the Court of the Crimson King, and I love Islands as well. But with Discipline, I can see why a lot of people do cite this album as one of their masterpieces, and I adore this record. The production is top notch sound quality. Tony Levin on the bass, one of my favorite bassists of all time. And of course, you got Adrian Belew on here. His vocals on this album were fantastic. I love Bill Bruford, one of my favorite drummers of all time. And I do love Andy White when he was with Yes, and Bill Bruford actually did play with Yes as well, but his drumming on King Crimson, for me, absolutely defines him as a drummer. One of my favorites. And then, of course, you got Robert Fripp. Robert Fripp, one of my favorite guitarists and musicians of all time. But I love a lot of the stuff on here. Elephant Talk to Indiscipline, the title track, Discipline, The Sheltering Sky. To me, this is one of the best produced albums in King Crimson's discography, bar none. So that's all I would like to say on this album for now. The next King Crimson album is Thrack, their only album in the 90s, and I will have to say, while I really like this record, I personally do not cite this as one of the top 10, but I really like the production. It is absolutely amazing on here. Some really, really good instrumentation. Again, Belew's vocals were fantastic. Just like Discipline in part of the 30th anniversary edition, remasters. But this is a really, really good album. But I would still put this in the top 10 maybe. But from what I can hear on most of King Crimson's albums, Thrack is one of those that I really enjoy quite a lot. And their final album, The Power to Believe. Now this record is more or less a bit of like a progressive metal kind of vein with this album than any of their albums previously. But I think that this album does get a little bit overlooked. Pretty underrated as well. But I was really, really impressed with this. And if this will be the actual final album from King Crimson without Robert Fripp making another album, original material-wise, for the band, I think that this album was very, very good to finish off and complete their discography with. The album cover is very cool. I really like this. Very, very good album from start to finish. But again, just like with Thrack, possibly put it in my top 10, although my personal favorite King Crimson albums are the earlier ones I've mentioned, and as well with Discipline. So the only albums that I need to listen to are the Earthbound live album and many of the other ones, and Starless. So Starless is maybe... No, and Lizard. Those two King Crimson albums, studio albums wise, that I have not listened to whatsoever for now. So I will be picking them up on CD at some point. But anyway, that is The Power to Believe. Decided to pick up some more Björk with this album, Homogenic. Now, I bought this album for the first time on vinyl a few months ago, and I really still do love this album. And when it comes to Björk, I know that it's not a lot of people's cup of tea. Some of the people can find this music to be a little bit difficult and too out there. But that's what I love about her music. Her music, along with others like Frank Zappa, to Captain Beefheart, etc., and a bit of the other challenging artists. I think Björk is one of those artists that is just tremendous, and this album's production is fantastic. I do love a lot of the tracks on here, but my favorite Björk album in her discography so far is Post. But this is a top 3 album from her discography. So, decided to pick up 2 albums from Deaf Heaven, and this is New Bermuda, which at the moment is still currently my favorite in their discography. I absolutely do not like the common new releases of cardboard digipacks, but thankfully the album plays very, very well, and a lot of people rave about Sunbather, which is another album that I really, really like so much. But I think this album has more of the playable ability, though I need to buy Sunbather on CD and on vinyl, of course. Need to get this on vinyl too. I think that this is one of their best albums, if not, as I said, my favorite from this band so far. So, viewers who are watching this, please share a like and comment during the stream. Let me know what you think of these albums I've bought so far, and interact with me if you want to, and we'll just, have a very good time like the last streams. Anyway, Deaf Heaven again with this album, Infinite Granite. Infinite Granite did get a lot of these very divided comments for a lot of people, but this album is one of my favorites. And I did put this album on my last video as one of my favorite albums of the year so far. And I did play this album again, and it's still absolutely a wonderful release. Since that I am a massive fan of the shoegaze genre and vibe of music, I think this is definitely a really bold, not a risk, but a big change of arrangements that I think that they are brave to change into something even more diverse. But anyway, I've done an album review on this. For those that have not seen this album review that I've done, released through Sargent House label, and this is no rhyme or reason why I would absolutely put this in my top 10. This is one of my top 10 favorite records of the year so far, and I'm looking forward to some more of the new albums. I'm looking forward to the new Trivium album, the 2 Devin Townsend albums, which will be out at the same day as Trivium's In the Court of the Dragon album, and also we got Iron Maiden, new Iron Maiden next week. And of course, we've got the new Carcass album, which I am anticipated for. But hopefully, Mastodon will release a new album later this year, because that's my most anticipated. And I know that Cradle of Filth are releasing a new album, but I'm not sure if I'm going to review that one yet, though I do like a bit of their music. So, yeah, I think the second half of this year is probably going to be an improvement over the first half of new releases, though I haven't reviewed a lot of new albums from the first half. But now that I've been very active on reviewing new different albums from the bands that I'm a fan of, I think the second half is growing more and more stronger. with a lot of versatility and some really good anticipations coming up. Anyway, back to the update. The next album is Digimortal by Fear Factory. Now, I already own this album on CD over there, but I decided to purchase this because this is a Digipack edition, which does contain 4 bonus tracks. So I really have been in a bit of a Fear Factory phase. The reason why I decided to purchase this is because of the bonus tracks. And there was a game called Demolition Racer that I loved playing on the PlayStation 1. And the last track, Full Metal Contact, which is added on here, was added to the game. And of course, with the different, I guess, demo version of Memory Imprints Never End, which was then titled at that point, Will This Never End? I love that version as much as this album's version. But anyways, really glad to have this as a part of my collection, and Fear Factory are still one of my favorite bands of all time. And with that being said, I now own every Fear Factory album from Soul of a New Machine to Aggression Continuum. And I have heard the news that Dino Cazares will be replacing Burton with a female vocalist. I have no idea if that's going to go well or not. But I will give Dino a lot of the respect for trying something new, but I hope it will work out when it will be revealed who will be the new replacement for Burton. But really, Burton C. Bell, to me, was one of the masters and defining ones of why Fear Factory was so important. But needless to say, I think Aggression Continuum was a brilliant album to hear Burton for the last time. So that's that one. Digimortal by Fear Factory, another addition to the collection. Now I decided to purchase some more 2021 albums, including some albums that I think are very, very good, though I've not given these ones 9 out of 10s. But I just thought, while I do like these albums, I might as well just collect some of them. And that one being Dark Throne, Eternal Hails. Now I've given this album an 8 out of 10, decided to purchase this because I do really like some Dark Throne. There were some flaws that I had addressed, but with most of the material for this album, I really enjoyed this. Really, really enjoyed this album. But I do not cite this still as one of their very best albums. So it can get a little bit overhyped. Well, overhyped, like loads of people rave about the new Death Heaven album. But I gave that album such high praise because of the differences and the tonality that the band had done for the first time than any of their previous stuff. But I really do love that album. Anyways, Eternal Hails, very good album from one of black metal's most iconic ones. Though I am still missing quite a lot of their albums on CD in my collection. But anyways, I decided to pick this one up. Now, this is maybe the first album that I've bought from this band, as I have listened to other albums from these guys that I really like a lot. And that is Melvin's with Stoner Witch. This is the album that really caught my eye of checking out next. The other Melvin's albums that I've heard are Lysol to Bullhead and Houdini so far. But I've heard a lot of really good things about this. So I also purchased this because this is one of EQP TV's favourite Melvin's albums. So really looking forward to check this one out. The next album, another 2021 album, I have given it a mostly positive review with, and that is Julha by Korpiklani. Korpiklani, you can't go wrong with, one of my favourite folk metal bands of all time. released through Nuclear Blast Records. So giving it an 8.5 out of 10. And I know that most of the albums that I've chosen from my last video are mostly 9 out of 10s, but this was really close of being a 9. And I had to put Corpiclani in there because, you know, for the first album to be released through this decade, this album to me is really, really, really good. I like the versatility and a bit of the differences with the sound that the band had done on this record, but I would definitely recommend this for any Corpiclani fan to check out. So I decided to purchase some more of the heavier side of metal music, and I purchased another album from one of my favorite technical metal bands, that is Nile, with Vile Neurotic Rites. I've not played this one yet, but I own a bit of Nile on CD. I own Annihilation of the Wicked, and I need to buy Ithyphallic, which is a very good one as well. And I have got Those Whom the Gods Detest. So this is my, I guess, my new intro to one of their more recent albums from Nile. And they were one of these bands that I was liking the sound of way before I got into just the whole death metal scene entirely. So, again, released through Nuclear Blast Records, and I am looking forward to play this. The last album that I did listen to Nile was Annihilation of the Wicked, which is my favourite Nile album in their discography, bar none. I mean, loads of people would maybe pick In Their Darkened Shrines or Ithyphallic, but Annihilation of the Wicked is one of those albums that hits home for me for nostalgia reasons, and it is one of my favourite metal albums of all time. So I did put Annihilation of the Wicked as one of my top 10 metal albums from the 2000s. Again, a very quick plug. Please check that video out if you want to. Decided to buy another album that a lot of people have given it a lot of acclaim and positive words about, and this is my first album that I've bought from this band. I have heard really good things about this band. This is At the Gates with their album The Nightmare of Being. So this is released through Century Media Records. This contains a bonus CD, which is just a live concert. Does contain all the lyrics, and I was really looking forward to discover some more of these new albums that I have been missing out on, and this was one of them. I do like a bit of the melodic death metal scene, but I've not been a fan of quite a lot of bands in that particular genre. However, At the Gates has been known as one of the best bands in the genre alone, so that's why I decided to purchase this. Anyway, that's the At the Gates album. Another new album from this year, Cannibal Corpse's Violence Unimagined. I had to pick this one up because this is another album that I've not played yet, and they've been one of my favourite metal bands. So there isn't really much I could say about this band other than this is the first album without Pat O'Brien, but I think his replacement sounded absolutely great from what I've heard from the previews from the Amazon website. Again, released through Metal Blade Records, and I haven't got a lot of their albums yet in the collection. The last Cannibal album that I've purchased was Bloodthirst, which I think is their most underrated and one of my top favourite albums from the band. But that is Cannibal's new album, Violence Unimagined. Now, this is another band that I absolutely admire, one of my top 5 bands of all time. I own this album on CD and got the original vinyl, but I decided to pick up the deluxe edition. This is Black Sabbath's album, The Eternal Idol. This is the deluxe edition, which contains the second disc of the Eternal Idol sessions with their potential next vocalist after Glenn Hughes, Ray Gillan, who would later on be in the very underrated band of Badlands. So that's what it looks like. I haven't listened to the Ray Gillan sessions yet, and Scarlet Pimpernel was not included in the sessions. But the first disc, which features Tony Martin, features the two tracks of Black Moon, which is a B-side, and Some Kind of Woman, another single B-side after the actual album itself of The Eternal Idol. I had to purchase this because this is one of my favourite Black Sabbath albums, at least top 10 wise, which I have done a re-ranking of Black Sabbath's discography. And for those that are fanatics of Sabbath like myself, please check out my album reviews on all of their albums and the original ranking as well. But The Eternal Idol was one of those albums that I've been growing to love more and more over time. Actually, I'm gonna put these CDs on the floor so that the camera won't be covering my face up. Back to some more new albums. Black Midi, Cavalcade. This is an awesome album, and this was my intro to the band. I was really fascinated by the look of this creative, random, artistic-looking artwork. And when I listened to this band for the first time, I was really impressed with this band's material. I haven't bought Schlagenheim yet on CD, the band's first album, but this was released through Rough Trade Records, and from what I've been listening to, I will mention this in another video. I would possibly put this album in as maybe one of my top 10 albums of the year, so I would like to save my words for last when I'll be doing my end of the year list. But if you really want to get into some very diverse genre mixing, stylistic, avant-prog jazzy style of music, then highly recommend this. Black Midi with Cavalcade. Now I decided to purchase another Rolling Stones album, and this one is very underrated. Not that this is one of their best albums, however, I have given it quite a lot of respect when I have been listening to this and did an album review on this. This is Bridges to Babylon. This was entirely produced and mixed with different producers, including the Dust Brothers and Don Was. But I really like quite a lot of the stuff on here. There are still some flaws with this record. Some of the weaker tracks, like How Can I Stop and Might As Well Get Juiced. But with the differences than the last album, that was Voodoo Lounge, which I respect that album, but that's not one of my favorite Stones albums. But I prefer Bridges to Babylon over Voodoo Lounge, just for the sake of something I think more memorable, and still has some really, really good songs on here, including the singles, but never in my top 10 favorite Rolling Stones albums. But I decided to pick this one up as that I will be growing some more of their albums in the collection over time. Another album in terms of some of my favorite albums from the last decade, which I would possibly do part 2 of my favorite albums from the 2010s. This is The Sciences with Sleep. This album from this band, absolutely an awesome comeback album and one of my favorite Sleep albums. What I really like is that there's a picture of Geezer Butler on that milk carton, which is very, very cool. But this production is maybe my favorite produced sleep album, released through Third Man Records, which is Jack White's record label. And I really do love a lot of the stuff on this record. I need to buy Holy Mountain, and I think that's a very good album, but Dope Smoker is the classic in their discography, and one of my favorite albums of all time. So, anyways, the sciences work it out into your heads to check out some amazing comeback albums, and from one of the best albums of the decade, in my opinion, and this is definitely worth of a comeback album. Right, so that is the first pile of albums. Going on to the the second pile, and viewers, please address what you think of the stream so far and give the stream a like. Hangout, we'll interact and have a chill time. I would love to interact with you guys because it's just one of my favorite things to do. And thank you guys for being just amazing people, for being who you are, really liking or loving the videos, and welcome new subscribers as always. It means the absolute world to me. So thank you very much. You are all awesome. So the next album into the list, I was really happy to have this in the collection. Another new album. This was released through Metal Blade Records once again. This is Dread Sovereign's Alchemical Warfare, which I have given it quite a lot of acclaim with my review for this album. So if you want to see my full review of this album, please, by all means, check out the video. And that's what the disc looks like. And this contains the cover of You Don't Move Me, and that's a really, really good cover. But the vinyl version of the album does not include that cover, which is totally fine by me. Heavy Metal Music of Destruction, Aidian French. Fancy seeing you here. Thank you for coming in. I am doing very well. I hope you are as well. I love the new Dark Throne album. The new Dark Throne is very good, but it's not one of my top 10 of the year. And I will be purchasing some more albums from that band. I own, mostly for now, the earlier albums. But anyways, Dread Sovereign's Alchemical Warfare, absolutely one of my top 5 albums of the year so far. And if you want to get into the stoner metal, doomy metal side, then I highly, absolutely recommend this brilliant beast of an album. Next album from one of my favorite German bands of all time. This is Tangerine Dream, White Eagle. Now, this is a record that some fans don't really think about as much as some of the more popular albums, but I really like this record. I have bought Hyperborea on original vinyl last month, but I really, really do love some more of the later stuff than just listening to the classic era from Tangerine Dream. Really sweet, minimal, ambient, electronic, experimental band. And for those that really like that kind of sound, then look no further for Tangerine Dream, as they've been a band that's been a household name for that kind of scene involving the krautrock genre as well, like others from Ashra Temple to Faust, Can, Noi, and Tangerine Dream is just one of my top five favorite German bands. Bought my last Mastodon album in the collection to complete their discography on CD, and that is The Hunter. Now, I'm not going to say too much about this because I am almost in the middle of reviewing their discography. I am on to Blood Mountain so far, but from what I have heard about this album, I can see why some people say that The Hunter is their least favorite Mastodon album. Though some fans do love this album, but I want to go into full detail when I will be reviewing this album. But I am so anticipated to review Crack the Sky because that's one of my favorite albums of all time. So I just thought, why not purchase The Hunter to complete their discography, since hopefully their new album will be released in the next few months. The next album, Strapping Young Lad with Alien. This is my second favorite album from this band, and I do love a lot of the stuff to this album. This was released through Century Media Records, and I believe, according to this record label, is maybe an Australian CD pressing. And I know that their discography has been released on remastered vinyl via Listenable Records, and I have heard all of their albums, but this is my second favourite album from Strapping Young Lad. Love a lot of the tracks on here. Skeksis, To Love, Shitstorm, 2 Weeks, Zen, but City is my favourite album from Strapping Young Lad. Shizazzle, how's it going, buddy? I hope you are doing very well. Thank you for tuning in. And this is definitely one of those albums that has been selected as one of the very best Strapping Young Lad albums. So if you have not heard of Strapping Young Lad, highly recommend this or City to start out on. Heavy metal music. Have you heard of Marduk, one of my favorite old school Swedish black metal bands? I have heard of the name, but I have not heard of their music. What do you think of Opeth's progressive death metal albums, Orchid, Morning Rise, Blackwater Park? Blackwater Park is a very, very strong Opeth album. Though I have not bought it yet. I only own Still Life on CD. Haven't dived into their stuff yet. So I've not been listening to Orchid or Morning Rise, but Opeth are one of those bands that I need to buy their albums for the collection. But I have heard a few albums from them so far. I just woke up and got some pizza for breakfast. That's awesome. Are you a meat eater or a vegetarian? Very curious, buddy. Pizza for breakfast? That's totally random. Totally random for breakfast choices. Okay, meat eater. No worries whatsoever, mate. Anyway, Stereolab with, in part of their expanded editions, This Is Mars Audiac Quintet. I haven't listened to this one yet, so I can't really say my words about this record yet, but I have decided to purchase some more albums from one of my new favourite bands, a British/French band with a lot of electronics to some experimental stuff that I've talked about before on my previous updates. And Stereolab is a band that I really like so much. And decided to purchase this album, Transient Random Noise Bursts with Announcements. Now, this has been praised for some fans as their best, but I think Stereolab's Dots and Loops is my favourite Stereolab album entirely so far. But I think this is a really, really good album. And what I like about Stereolab is that their albums have their own variety of sound quality and production. That's what I really like the most about this band. And just like the other editions, they contain 2 discs with some alternate mixes to some full versions and different versions of the tracks. But this is a really good album. So, speaking of some progressive metal, I decide to purchase some more Dream Theater. So the first one is Falling into Infinity. This album is very underrated, though I personally do not pick this as one of the top 5. I think that this album deserves more of the credit. So I really find the material on here to have some brilliant performances and material yet. Produced by Kevin Shirley, who did a really good job in my opinion. But my favourite Dream Theater album so far is Images and Words and probably Awake. So Falling into Infinity was an album that I personally have not got a lot of problems with. There are some flaws with it, but not really much, so I can't complain. I think this is a very, very good album. The next album is 6 Degrees of Inner Turbulence, which I think that this is one of their best albums. It's 2 discs. The first disc contains the random other sorts of material, and the second disc is the main medley of the title track. And very controversially, I personally will pick this over Metropolis Part 2. And I know that may cause some angry, negative comments for many Dream Theater fans, but that album's very good. However, this album is very favourable for me. I do love a lot of the stuff onto this album, although some people say Octavarium is the best Dream Theater album. But in my opinion, this is one of the top 5 favourites and best Dream Theater albums. And the last one for Dream Theater is When Dream and Day Unite, which is an album that I personally don't regard as much as like one of their strong albums, as some people do miss this album a lot. But I think that Charlie, as a vocalist, the only album with Charlie on vocals, he did a decent job, but I think that the material on here does have some very good solid stuff on here. But I can see why many fans would not really regard this as one of their best records whatsoever. Produced by Terry Date, who I'm very familiar with. Really great producer. Produced albums from Deftones to Pantera. This was released through the MCA Records label, and I have not heard this album for a long time, so that's why I had to purchase this. But anyways, Dream Theater, When Dream and Day Unite, to me, not a bad album, as some people say that it is. I'm really reluctant at the moment to buy The Astonishing, because The Astonishing has been known as one of their weakest albums just because of how long and bloated that album was for many fans. Excuse me. But anyways, I need to check out their later albums. So I have got more than half of their discography on CD, and I'm not so sure if their albums are going to be at a similar amount of price for vinyl whatsoever. But anyway, that's Dream Theater. I have a bit of a break. So, how are you guys doing? I was originally going to be doing this live stream at 8 o'clock, but I decided to do the stream earlier on, and I'm going to be going out tonight. So I apologize for the very quick change of plans, as some of you guys had seen my post that I will be streaming at 4 p.m. UK time last night. So anyway, apologies for the quick change and earlier time, because I know some of you guys are very busy. But for those that are watching this stream after it's recorded, thank you very much for watching this so far. Been going through a really annoying sore throat as I've been going through a cold, but I am getting better I'm getting very much better. Um, Dream Theater is a band that I have been wanting to get into for a while. You can check them out at any time, mate. There's no rush whatsoever. Let me know which prog bands have you heard so far. And once this stream's over, I will make a community section post that my update / live stream is up. Anyway, halfway through the update, I'm going to be wrapping this live stream up at 6 o'clock. It's almost 5 p.m. where I'm at. So, the next pile. Decided to purchase some more albums for my Slipknot collection, including some promo stuff. This is the 10th anniversary edition of All Hope Is Gone. And what really annoys me is that when this edition first came out, I didn't bother buying it. And look at the prices now. People are selling the vinyl edition of this at an astronomical amount of money. But this contains the first disc being the obvious original album, and the second disc is Slipknot's performance live at Madison Square Garden in 2009. The booklet contains different pictures when you go through the lyrics, which is a really good idea. When you can look at the differences in packagings from the special edition to the original CD version of All Hope Is Gone. But I decided to pick this one up, which I will be reviewing Volume 3, The Subliminal Verses, and All Hope Is Gone very, very soon. Now, this item is very cool. You can probably get this item very easily if you are a buyer on Discogs or on eBay. This is the Heretic Song promo single, Heretic Song Rough Mix, which I believe there's another version of this single, but I decided to not buy the other version because it would be too similar to this. But here's what the disc looks like. So there you go, Heretic Song Rough Mix, one of my favorite tracks from Iowa, period. And I really like that some of these rare editions can be packaged through some cellophane, and it just makes them, I would say, authentic, depending on how rare some of these items can really be. But anyways, that is the Iowa promo Heretic Song. Now this item, this is possibly going to be the rarest item that I have ever bought and now own for my Slipknot collection. I'm going to go off for a few minutes here. This item, bought from eBay, this is Slipknot The Videos. Now, I had bought this from a seller from Ukraine, and this was an item that I had to contact the seller if it was an actual item or a bootleg. And I got a response from the seller that this was an actual promotional item. This was owned originally through Ukrainian Records and Moon Records, which you can see both of these labels on the spine and as well as the back. And the seller said that this item was made at the time for a promotional release from the time that Disaster Pieces came out. So I was extremely, very much lucky to own this item for my Slipknot collection. And I was actually trying to look up this item if somebody else has got something alike to this. But I may very well be very, very lucky to have possibly, maybe, not actually, but maybe the only person to have this item than any other Slipknot collector, which is absolutely amazing, because I know there are other Slipknot collectors that have owned actual things that were used from band members, like some of their masks, for example, or a YouTuber that I loved watching, SK Collect, all in one word, had a massive Slipknot collection, and one of the items that he owns was an actual vinyl that was used from Sid Wilson, the man himself. But for me, I consider myself to be very lucky to have one of the extremely rare items that maybe no other Slipknot fan has got in their collection. Now, this video basically shows all the videos from the eras from the self-titled album and Iowa, and I believe that People Equal Shit and the Heretic Anthem are like live clips, and Spit It Out, the music video to the two music videos from Wait and Bleed, the director's cut of Left Behind and My Plague, but this was an actual item. So here's what the back looks like. And again, here's the spine. So this is maybe the rarest thing that I have ever bought from a Slipknot collection. Anyway, I don't want to go on about this so much because I've got so many other stuff to show, but that I am very lucky to have. Moving on. The next album, this is from a band that I was really looking forward to dive into, and a lot of people rave about this band, in particular the progressive metal scene. This is Baroness with the album Purple. I was hesitant to buy Yellow and Green along with this, but I am glad that I decided to purchase this first, because I love this album cover. That's what draws me in the most so far. But when I played it, it was just a repeatable album. I was really absorbing and was getting a bit addicted to this album. Purple has been known as one of their best albums, and I am really glad that I purchased this album first. So I've heard really good things about Baroness, so that's why I decided to purchase this first. Be mindful and wise. How's it going, buddy? Hi, Greg. I'm at work, so I'll pop in and chat every once in a while. Nice choice with the Baroness Purple. I have that album too on CD. Be mindful and wise. I will be streaming for another hour. I will say once again that I will finish off this stream at 6 o'clock UK time, but thank you very much for tuning in. Aiden, where did you get the t-shirt? I love the Iowa t-shirt. I bought this at the time when it was on sale from the Slipknot merch website. I bought and have a Slipknot self-titled album t-shirt from HMV in Chester, Essex, when Joey Jordison died, and Slipknot mug today. That's awesome. Really glad to hear your dedication. But yeah. Anyways, so Baroness with Purple, very good album. For those that are fans of Baroness, please let me know which album from theirs is your favorite, because I would like to buy some more albums from their discography. Let me know once again if the audio quality and picture quality is very good, because it looks great from what I can see on my laptop screen. The next album, this is a live album from a band that I've heard great things about, and I have heard some songs from this 70s British formed psychedelic space rock band. This is Space Ritual by Hawkwind. This is a 2 CD set, and I've played this for the first time actually. I own a Hawkwind album, which is I believe it's the one that came out before this. But from what I've heard, I really, really do love their sound. Of course, this was a band that Lemmy was a part of before he joined Motorhead. Amazing performances on here, some brilliant material. This is the first Hawkwind album that I've actually bought on CD. Excuse me. But I really have been loving the stuff that I've heard so far from this band. But for any Hawkwind fans out there, let me know which Hawkwind album is your favourite, and I will be very happy to do my album purchasing on some of their albums. I do love Motorhead, but Hawkwind is a band that I wanted to get into and love for a long time. Shazazzle, audio and video quality are actually their best right now. That's great to hear. So if it sounds great, then I guess I would like to live stream with my mobile from now on. Anyway, that's Hawkwind. The next album, this is from a German progressive sludge metal band, The Ocean. This is their album Anthropocentric, which is a concept album. Basically deals about the religion side, like with Buddhism, for example, and just the whole creation and the whole religion side of that as well. But this really goes into detail with that kind of vein. Released through Metal Blade Records, and I really do like this album. So this has a lot of these references with the biblical stuff to God and stuff like that. The best Ocean album is Pelagial, which is one of my favorite albums from the last decade that I've talked about from my best albums of the decade video. Really good album. Really good album, and I have reviewed Phanerozoic 2 last year when that album came out. So yeah, that's The Ocean. Another amazing progressive metal band that you should dive into. Decided to purchase some Devin Townsend, and this is Empath. Empath is absolutely brilliant, and this is one of my favorite Devin Townsend albums. This was one of those albums that I decided to buy for the sake of Devin Townsend, and also with Samus, 66 Samus on YouTube. He played some monstrous drumming on some tracks with this album. But I think that this album does contain some phenomenal performances and some of his best material, like Genesis to Y, Singularity. But I have been absorbing a lot of Devin Townsend's material, and I am anticipated for his 2 new albums releasing later this year. So, the next one is a live album. This is Iron Maiden, Rock in Rio. Now, this was recorded and released at the time from the Brave New World era. And as much as many people praise Live After Death, but I actually would maybe prefer this live album over that one. But this is one of their very best live albums. I love their track selection from this live album. A lot of it does have the material from Brave New World, but they do play some tracks from Virtual 11 to The X Factor, The Number of the Beast, Power Slave, just some tracks from earlier albums, with most of them from the Brave New World album. Anyway, Amazing live album. Absolutely amazing. And I think that Bruce Dickinson performs the Blaze Bayley Maiden tracks very, very well on here. So definitely check this one out. Some brilliant production and mixing quality as well. Sorry for the sniffle, I apologize. Now this album, this is from a band that I really decided to come back to, and well, not to purchase the later stuff whatsoever, but I decided to purchase this because I think that this was the last great album from In Flames. This is Reroute to Remain, 14 songs of conscious insanity. Now, I do love the melodic early death metal sound of In Flames, but this album is to me their last where they go into that vein. I think this is a very, very good album, though I do not really pick this as one of their best albums in terms of the best lineup and best era from In Flames. This album's era does bring me back a bit of memories when I was discovering some metal bands in the melodic vein, like Cloud Connected to Trigger. I really like some of the latest stuff on here as well. But I think that this was the last album when In Flames used to be brilliant. In my opinion, I do not like the sound of their later stuff at all. I've lost interest from the band when Siren Charms came out, which is an awful album that I do not like. That's when they just fell down the drain, with my opinion. But I think this is a very good album from In Flames. Hence, that's why I needed to purchase this. I need to buy Clayman and Colony, and that would be it for me for In Flames. Excuse me. The next album, now this is from a band that I wanted to check out, and I know a lot of people have been saying different opinions about this band, especially through the later controversial direction from the band. This is Queensryche, Operation Mindcrime. I had to pick this up because this has been praised as one of the best progressive metal concept albums of all time. And this was my intro to the band. I really like this album. Though I have played it twice, I still need to, let it build and have a vibe with me to completely say that I love this album. But I really like this album. This contains 2 bonus tracks of 2 different live versions of The Mission and My Empty Room, and the bonus disc contains Operation Mindcrime played live in its entirety at the Hammersmith Odeon, which was previously unreleased. But I decided to pick this one up because this has been praised for many as one of the best progressive metal albums of all time. So anyways, that's the first Queensryche album that I've bought. Just going to put the pile down here. The next album, Big Fun by Miles Davis. This is an album that I really wanted to buy for a very long while. This was recorded at the time with the Bitches Brew sessions, and I really do love Miles Davis. Just one of my top 5 favourite solo musicians of all time. I have bought so much of his stuff that his discography is absolutely one of the greatest in music history, and this does contain previously unreleased tracks, 4 previously unreleased tracks, and I am excited to listen to this. So, big fan of Miles Davis, so I decided to buy Big Fun. So, the next 2 are from a band that I really like very much. This is again one of those other stoner rock metal bands. That is Caius. This is the album Welcome to Sky Valley, which, in my opinion, is one of their best albums. Really great, distorted, fuzzy guitar tones. And this was a band that Josh Homme from Queens of the Stone Age was a part of before this band departed. And this is their best album, in my opinion. The very iconic classic album, Blues for the Red Sun. This is my intro to the band, and I pretty much love this album straight away. So if you really want to get into that kind of sound, then highly recommend this. Highly recommend that you should check out this band. Shizazel, to be honest, I have a hard time listening to In Flames after Clayman. Fair enough, The Jester Race and Horacle are my two favorite albums from them. Absolutely agree. Aiden at Shizazel, I love early In Flames. My favorite In Flames albums as well. Shizazel again, Operation Mindcrime is one of the best albums of all time. And he responded to Aiden's comment. Jotun is probably my favorite song from the band, but I actually really like their acoustic medley on the Black Ash Inheritance EP. Fair enough, and I actually have Lunar Strain on CD, which does contain the Black Ash Inheritance EP in one CD, so I guess that's very cool. Now, the next two are from a band that I have mentioned before from my last update, when I have bought one of the double albums. That is 9 Inch Nails. This is their album Pretty Hate Machine. I really like this album. This is the 2011, I believe, a remaster, but from what I've listened to, I really do like this. I've only played this album once. However, since I've been loving some more onto the industrial, experimental kind of sound with artists, I had to discover some more of the band's music. So 9 Inch Nails with Pretty Hate Machine, and this album With Teeth. Now, I've played this album once. I played this album earlier before I started recording this stream. I think this is very, very good too. I've not heard an album that I am not a fan of yet, but my favorite 9 Inch Nails album so far is The Fragile. I know a lot of people rave about the Downward Spiral, which I will buy and get into that one, but I'm slowly growing to build my 9 Inch Nails discography on CD. And the very last album that I've purchased on this pile, this is from one of my favorite bands outside the UK and the US. This is Boris with Pink. Now, Boris, for those that don't know this band, are a Japanese metal band. They make albums with stoner metal to doom metal, drone metal, lots of variety of different genres, but this is a 2-disc deluxe edition. Really, really unusual packaging, but I love it at the same time. So you don't get quite a lot of stuff onto this style of packaging, but if you want to get into Boris, Pink has been known as one of their absolute best albums. And I may have fucked up the case a little bit. I was opening it the wrong way around. 2-disc edition as well, as the first CD decides to fall out like a complete annoying ass. But yeah, definitely pick up some Boris. Absolutely amazing Japanese band. Be mindful and wise. I need to check out Boris. I've been wanting to check out Amplifier Worship. That's a really good one too, but look for Flood and Pink. and I will go into Boris later on with this update. Okay, so we are more than an hour in, guys. So I will be offline for the stream in less than an hour. But yeah, definitely check out Boris, one of my favorite bands of all time. And the last pile of CDs is a complete discography, again from one of my favorite metal bands. And the discography that I am talking about is the Death Discography. I have actually bought and owned a terrible edition of The Sound of Perseverance through Icarus Records up there, but I decided to purchase the whole discography, and most of these albums are in part of the 2011 remasters from Relapse Records, and not all of them have the cardboard sleeves, but that's totally fine. Because what's more important is the album itself and the discography of their music. Scream Bloody Gore, and with these cardboard sleeves, they have a lot of embossed designs, and this is a really great debut album. The second disc contains the original Florida Sessions rehearsals, and the first disc, along with the other ones, are I believe remasters from the original tapes. Really great debut album. Then we have Leprosy, which is one of my favorites as well. This contains the second disc of the Leprosy rehearsals. This is an album that I prefer over Scream Bloody Gore, but this does have some great stuff. However, I prefer some more of the tracks and the sound on this. This is a really raw sounding album from this band. Spiritual Healing. Now, this is personally my least favorite from the band's discography, but I still really do like this album, though it's not one of those albums that I play very often in their discography. But needless to say, their discography to me is one of my favorites. The second disc with this contains the rehearsals, jam and joke tracks, and the instrumental versions on some tracks. So that's Spiritual Healing. Human, which has been praised for many as one of their best. Personally, this is maybe their best produced album, besides Symbolic, of course. Although I love the production on this one, maybe a little bit more. The second disc on this contains the instrumental tracks, and as well as the Human demos. Some amazing material onto this album that I prefer over Spiritual Healing. So that's that album. Individual Thought Patterns, which is one of my favorites, which contains as well one of the greatest metal drummers of all time, Gene Hoglan, The Atomic Clock. The second disc contains Live in Germany from '93 as well. Brilliant album. The next album, Symbolic, which I was actually pretty disappointed that this album was not released through these exact similar editions with the bonus tracks and the additions from Relapse Records. But this is possibly the only album that I bought that is close to being like an original CD pressing. The Symbolic, absolutely a classic, one of the best metal albums of all time, and my second favorite album from this band. And then The Sound of Perseverance, which is my favorite album from this band's discography. This blows the previous edition that I have out of the way. The second disc contains the tracks of the demos some that include no bass, and some demos from '97. The first disc contains the Painkiller cover as well, which is one of the greatest metal covers songs of all time, bar none from anybody. And The Sound of Perseverance was the one that got me into the band. Love this album. One of my favorite albums of all time as well. So that is the Death discography on CD. And I know that Relapse have released these albums through colored vinyl, but I'm just going to stick with these for now. And with that being said, guys, that is what I've purchased for the albums on CD. Now onto the records, in no particular order. First album, this is from the first CD that I've shown for this update and stream, King Crimson, Discipline. This is an original UK pressing through EG Records, and this album has definitely been one of those albums that is one of their masterpieces, one of my new favorite albums of all time. So this is an album that I would controversially, absolutely will say that I would prefer this album over Red. Red is an amazing album, but I don't love the album as much as this. And Red has been known for some fans as their best album. But Discipline is just one of those classic later albums from King Crimson that you need to check out. It's the beginning of their trilogy for the new wave, poppy kind of sound. I love Beat as well. Got the original vinyl for that too. Haven't bought Three of a Perfect Pair original vinyl yet. But this album, absolutely recommend this. Seeing some more comments as I'll scroll up right now. Aiden, I am yellow. I am yellow and green. I got introduced to Baroness through a 2013 issue of Metal Hammer with Avenged Sevenfold and an old school Colombian two-piece black metal band called Inquisition. Be Mindful and Wise. I need to check out Boris as I've read that. Shizazzle. Death is one of my top 5 bands of all time. The Sound of Perseverance is my big 4 of my favorite albums of all time. That's awesome. Some CDs from them have the sleeves and some don't. I have the cardboard sleeves of their first 3, but I've seen sleeves for the rest of their discography. Not sure why it's like that, to be honest. It doesn't bother me at all, actually. Aiden again. I think Children of Bodom was a lot better for the melodic death metal next to At the Gates. I'm not a fan of Children of Bodom. I don't love them as much as some of the other ones in the genre, but I have a lot of respect for the band. Shizazzle, again, The Sound of Perseverance for me has the best production. And again, Shizazzle, I actually don't like their Painkiller cover. That is quite absolutely surprising. I don't like Chuck's vocals on that track. But that is your opinion, and no disrespect whatsoever, mate. I think that's one of the greatest covers ever. The next record, this is in part for my Slipknot collection once again, and that is Point 5, The Grey Chapter, the next album that I've purchased. Richard Metal fan, fancy seeing you here, buddy. Thank you for tuning in. If you have not seen the other albums I've purchased, just scroll back to the beginning of the stream, and hopefully you'll see the rest of the stuff during or while you're watching the stream after it's done. Hope you're doing very well, buddy. And by the way, guys, he has reached 2,000 subscribers, and check out his YouTube channel as well. But yeah, point 5, The Great Chapter. And also, this album cover is awful. This is their worst album cover from the band's discography, in my opinion. This album, to me, is very good and a bit of a better album than All Hope Is Gone, but it does have some weaknesses. The more I thought about the album, and I'm not a fan of some tracks like Kill Pop, which is to me one of the weakest Slipknot songs. And Custer, while it may sound catchy, does come off as very repetitively cheesy, especially with the chorus, that I'm just not really a fan of. But it does have some very good tracks on here, double vinyl pressing, and in terms of some of the earlier Slipknot albums, they are expensive to buy on vinyl. So I own the self-titled album, remaster, re-release, double vinyl. We Are Not Your Kind, signed by Mick, and Point 5, The Great Chapter so far. So I think that Point 5, The Great Chapter is a very good album, but I don't cite this as one of their best Slipknot albums. Anyways, that's that album. And I am hoping that the band's going to be releasing new material on their 7th record. And I hope Corey Taylor, as well as Bruce Dickinson, will get better by themselves. So much love and massive fingers crosses for both of them for their recovery. What I miss? You've missed some albums from mostly metal bands. But like I said, if you want to check out the stuff I've purchased that I've shown already, just scroll through the stream. The next album, I've shown this album already on CD, and I was so happy to purchase this on vinyl. This is Dread Sovereign again with Alchemical Warfare. This is the 180 gram black vinyl, and for some reason it does says one bonus track, that being the cover that they've done to finish off this album, that the CD version has. However, this does not have that cover of You Don't Move Me. Just a standard black vinyl, plays amazing, sounds amazing, and highly check this one out. I've already talked enough about this album. The next album is not Boris, excuse me. Björk with Vespertine, and I really like this album. And this is one of those albums where she just sounds so beautiful, vocally, melodic wise, just sounds surreal, wonderful production. Double vinyl, gatefold sleeve with some more artwork. The sleeves contain the lyrics, just standard black vinyl. I do love a lot of Björk's music as I went into her discography so much more. Shazazzle, Chuck's solo on Painkiller is fantastic though. Yes, Chuck, one of the greatest guitarists of all time and vocalists too. Aiden, Death was massive in Canada. Well, they were massive everywhere, especially in America. And obviously they were a Florida-based metal band, but they're influential as all heck. But anyways, Björk's music, such a different experience every time I listen to her music. Haven't heard her latest stuff yet, but I will be buying and check out the later albums. The next album, again, Black Midi, Cavalcade. Just some of the coolest album artworks you'll ever see. And the gatefold shows all the lyrics and standard black vinyl, which I will show you right now, with some more of this crazy album artwork, and the album cover was the most intriguing part when I wanted to check out this album. But musically, it's just some great, awesome stuff. One of my favorite albums of the year so far, as I have done a video on my favorite albums of 21 so far. So that's Black Midi. The next album, Black Midi again, with their debut album, Schlagenheim. And again, some pretty unusual but cool album artwork. Has all the lyrics on the gatefold. Just black vinyl. I think it's black vinyl. Let me check. Shizazel, Death's cover of God of Thunder to me destroys the original. I need to check out their cover actually. Yeah, just standard black vinyl. Haven't played this album yet, but now that I've heard Cavalcade, absolutely will play this album very, very soon. So, hope you guys are doing very well amongst yourselves and be in a brilliant state mentally and physically, and just keep doing what you love doing with what makes you happy. Listen to music and just have a great time with whatever really makes you feel involved and engaged. And I'll just say this again, that the interaction between me and you is just absolutely one of my favorite things that I love about my YouTube channel, and your support means so much to me. And thank you so much for just being who you are. I know I say this billions of times from previous live streams, but I just never want to ignore anything like this whatsoever. So, anyways, believe in yourself and you are loved. Be in a great state of mind, and I will send with you massive love and joy to yourselves. And I do wish you the best with whatever you want to do, and you're just amazing people. Moving on. Now, this album, this is the album that got me into this band that I've mentioned. This is my favorite album from Boris. This is At Last Feedbacker. This album was pressed to vinyl, and this edition that I've bought is from 2019 through Jack White's Third Man Records label. This was the album that made me fall in love with Boris. This is a really loud, slow, distorting, drone metal masterpiece. Some doomy riffs and noisy, wah-wah, abysmal sounds of heaviness. So this album was just a brilliant introduction for me. This contains a poster which just is the artwork with the album name and the band name at the bottom, I believe. And I love this album. This is one of my favorite albums of all time, and highly recommend this. First ever US issue of this key, 2003, released from Japan's shape-shifting heavy lords, Boris. As it says on the sticker, buy it if you dig Sun, Sleep, and of course Boris. So this is their masterpiece. Absolute classic. The next album, I really wanted to have this on vinyl for quite a long time, and this is always one of my favorites of all time in metal as well, and just with music. This is White Pony by Deftones, and this is a double album pressing released through Maverick Recordings. And if you want to see my review of this album with EQP TV, please this in celebration of its 20th anniversary. And speaking of 20th anniversary albums, there's going to be a very special collaborative album review, including Richard Metal Fan and Sedition Through Scorns and myself, as we are going to go in depth with our review for System of a Down's Toxicity. And by next week, the album will be turning 20. Absolutely insane. Insane to think about it. But yeah, White Pony, my favorite Deftones album, and I just had to purchase this. And the second to last album for this update is Deaf Heaven's Infinite Granite. This album really just sounded beautiful on CD, that I really wanted to purchase this on vinyl. It's still in the shrink wrapping, but I decided to keep the sticker. Keep the sticker over there. Excuse me. But I know a lot of people have been giving this album a lot of mixed responses. Some fans love this record, some don't, which is totally fine. I have no problem with it whatsoever. But needless to say, I've already talked enough about this album, as I've done my full album review with Infinite Granite. This contains the blue sleeve of the lyrics and just a standard black vinyl. So this was pressed to 2 records on the inside. So that is Infinite Granite. And the very last album for the collection, for all you Black Sabbath fanatics. Now, I have bought this album previously last year, but it was in such very bad state that I decided to frame my favorite Black Sabbath album, and I believe it was an original pressing from the US on the Warner Brothers label, I believe. But what I decided to buy through Discogs is Black Sabbath's Sabotage. This is an original UK first pressing. And I bought this because I do have other Black Sabbath original pressings. But what this pressing really has that surprised me so much is that my favorite Black Sabbath song, Megalomania, has a misspelling on the record labeling, which is really, really unexpected. And hopefully I could move this a little bit more closer. Maybe you can see that. Maybe you don't. But needless to say, the record is near mint. The cover is in very good shape. This was released on the NEMS label, not Vertigo, for some reason. Although most of the classic era of Black Sabbath has been released through the Vertigo label. But anyways, that is the original UK pressing with Sabotage by Black Sabbath. And with that being said, guys, that is my last item, last record that I've purchased for this update video. And I bought this record through a Discogs seller of Vinyl Guru on Discogs. And let's just say, obviously for me, it was not cheap at all, because some Black Sabbath original pressings, especially with Tony Martin's era with Black Sabbath, loads and loads and loads of money in an astronomical amount was just too ridiculous. But thankfully, I have most of Black Sabbath's originals on vinyl from the Aussie era. Anyway, That's Black Sabbath's Sabotage, original UK pressing. But if you want to see the information about that pressing, go to Discogs, and decided to buy a t-shirt to conclude this update. I do have another t-shirt that I purchased, but it's not here with me, so I thought I might as well save it for the next update video. We are an hour and a half into the stream, and the t-shirt that I decided to buy is the Liam Gallagher Why Me, Why Not t-shirt. Really wanted to purchase this because I am a fan of Liam Gallagher. As some of you guys know, that I do love Oasis, and I need to come back to Oasis and review Heath and Chemistry. Anyways, with all these albums shown off for the update, that is what I've purchased for this update / Hangout live stream. Shizazzle, that's a nice find with Sabotage. Thank you very much. Panos, I might have mispronounced that. I'm sorry if I did. Hello, just about to get into vinyl listening. Any idea how much a vinyl playing machine costs? Do you mean a record player? Well, it depends on the brand that interests you the most. Which record player, from the look of it to the design, and more importantly, the reviews of the feedback of whatever type of record player that you want to buy. I own a Project record player, although some people have bought others like Audio Technica, for example, but they go in various prices. So if you have an astronomical or a decent amount of money, then buy a record player with what interests you the most. But it's also important to look at other people's reviews on a record player, because there are lots of these record players that are so acclaimed and well regarded. So I would recommend a Project record player, but if you want to see something else that interests you, then by all means go for it. I could really go on about why vinyl is like my favorite format, but I have made a very, very, very previous video why I love vinyl very much. But good luck with your adventure with purchasing your purchasing your first record player. Thank you, man. Yeah, I meant record player. Don't be sorry at all. Speaking like a noob. That's not a noobish thing whatsoever. I do understand what you mean, though. Be mindful and wise. Are you looking forward to the new Iron Maiden album, Senjutsu, next week? Yes, I am. However, I have listened to Stratego, the second single to be released after The Writing on the Wall. I'm not impressed with the mixing. Musically, I will save my full thoughts on the tracks, but I think The Writing on the Wall is more inspired. Senjutsu's second track, second single of Stratego, I did like, but it can be a little bit repetitive. But that's what I think so far. The mixing is the weakest part, though, so far. Excuse me. Throat's really sore. Shizazzle again. Also, Iron Maiden has Senjutsu on a double disc, but if they trimmed 9 minutes off the album, they could fit it all on there on one disc. To be honest, with very long albums, the amount of space of minutes on sorry about that, guys. Some annoying camera decided to show off an update on my phone. Sorry about that, guys. Pissed me off a little bit. I thought the battery was just ran out of juice. But anyways, also, ask me one more time, guys. Audio wise, picture wise, is it good? Is it good enough? Anyway, what I was saying, the same thing about Iron Maiden. Iron Maiden have released 2-disc albums previously, and there's another new album that's going to come out for 2 discs, and that's not even as long as the new Iron Maiden album, and that is the new Yes album, The Quest, which I have no idea why they would release that album in 2 discs, yet alone that album is more than an hour long. I just don't understand that whatsoever. Since the Book of Souls could be trimmed way down, I'm pretty sure this album can be trimmed down as well. I don't think that it would be that big of an issue for any Maiden fan at all. I have pre-ordered Senjutsu, the book edition, by the way, from Iron Maiden's website. Very good prices for a pre-order. I thought they were going to go really high priced. But I'm looking forward to Senjutsu. But from what I can think about with the whole 2-disc thing, I can understand why some people have a bit of an issue with that. But like I said, the full space for 1 disc is just 80 minutes. And many bands have done that previously, not just Iron Maiden. Some live albums, many, have released themselves as 2 discs. But I'm looking forward to hear what Senjutsu's like. So I will be maybe reviewing the album and compare it to some previous albums and previous tracks, as well as the production, since I'm not really that into the mixing from Stratego at all. Aiden, I hate Point 5 The Great Chapter. Jay Weinberg, yes, he is only 28, but Joey Jordison was a proper old school extreme metal fan. Jay Weinberg is a metalcore drummer. I don't think he's a metalcore drummer at all. And I think you have to give him credit for being the replacement for Joey. And just because that a musician to your mind you think is extreme metal, it doesn't make them sound like extreme metal, because Joey's pioneering and adventurous, unique drumming was a huge part for Slipknot's music. But you have to just think that Joey was just a drummer for being, I think, more of the original and versatile talent of a drummer. Jay Weinberg never played to metalcore bands. He did play with Bruce Springsteen, I believe, with the E Street Band, and his dad is a drummer as well. But I think Jay Weinberg is a really great, different, but amazing drummer at that. So you can't really say that a musician is this genre type of drummer, because when I think about musicians, I just think of them as drummers with a sound from a band with whatever they want to release and make. So I think that Joey was more of the pioneer, the more complex metal drummer. I don't want to label any musician with this genre or that genre whatsoever. Genre, I mean. I don't want to label any musician in the incorrect way that they are a part of this or that genre, because, when it comes to whatever I love listening to, I'm just in it for the talents and to hear some music that I adore. And just connect with. Um, do you have Iowa on vinyl? It's the 20th anniversary. I know it's the 20th anniversary. I did address that at the beginning of the stream. I do not have Iowa on vinyl because the chance of getting Iowa on vinyl is really difficult, especially for original pressings. David Jones, Charlie Watts, the coolest drummer of all time. Yes, I love Charlie Watts. One of my top, I would say at least top 5 rock drummers of all time. And I did show off my Bridges to Babylon CD earlier on in this Hangout slash update. I was wearing a Rolling Stones t-shirt yesterday, but I love Charlie Watts. Shizazzle, for me, Stratego shows some more promise of what could be on the album. The song has a gallop, and Bruce does a harmony with himself, which he rarely does at all now. I prefer it way over the writing on the wall. That is fine. That's fine by me. I just got distracted by the way the song sounded from the mixing. Vocally, I think Bruce Dickinson is still really working at it, though I think that at this point his voice doesn't really sound as strong as his voice was when he came back to Iron Maiden. Not to disrespect him, obviously, but I did give him a lot of credit when I was first listening to the writing on the wall. Some people say that his voice was either shot or just not really one of the best sounding. And loads of people say that same thing with the Final Frontier. The Final Frontier, I think it's just a very, very underrated Maiden album, though I do not find it to be one of their best. And Bruce Dickinson's vocals to me had some issues with me, but I excuse me, I do admire what Dickinson really wanted to portray for what this album's going to become when the album comes out. Yeah, I can understand the mix part. I really wish and hope actually that this mixing is not going to be like this for the rest of the album, because I have heard a weird effect when I was listening to the writing on the wall when the music video just came out, and that distracted me a little bit. But Stratego was a song that I did like, but if it would grow on me, then I would maybe give the album more credit, and full of the anticipation. I'm pretty anticipated for the new Iron Maiden album, but from what I've heard so far, I am looking forward to it. But I am so curious to find out what this album for the rest of the new material is going to actually sound like. I still stand by my words that this is maybe going to be another diverse album like the Book of Souls. So, Shizazzle, apparently the mix on the music video and on streaming is actually different. I prefer the streaming version mix-wise. I'll have to listen to that version of that track, but I guess I'll just listen to the full album version when the album comes out. And like I said, I've pre-ordered Senjutsu, and I believe that it was, along with Infinite Granite, the first album that I had pre-ordered in terms of new albums for this year. I am suspecting my guessing that this could be an overhyping album, just like with Infinite Granite, but I've given it a lot of the positive and praised reviews. But let's just see what this new album from Iron Maiden is going to sound like. Right, 10 minutes, guys. So, right at 6 o'clock, I am going to finish this live stream. And this has been a really, really good time. So, I will have to say this once again. Thank you for being awesome. Thank you for tuning into this live stream. And I would maybe do a live stream at the end of October, depending if I'm going to be busy or not with the band that I'm in, as I've got some more gigs booked. So it's me back into my productivity, and I will let you guys know with a community section post on my channel and through a video when I would like to do another live stream. But since this was working out so well on my mobile than on webcam, I would like to do some more streams on my phone, because I think it just sounds and looks absolutely brilliant. So yeah, less than 10 minutes until I will finish this live stream. I have it on CD as well as Paranoid and Heaven and Hell. Which album do you own on CD as well as those two, Aiden? Which album? A Black Sabbath album? I'm actually a little bit confused. So if there are any other questions that you want to ask me, then do it now, and I would like to wrap this up in just a very comfortable amount of time. So I am close of 5 minutes away for ending this live stream. But it's really cool to see Aiden, Shizazzle, Richard Metal Fan, Be Mindful and Wise, and Panos. Again, I'm so sorry with the butchering of your name. So after this live stream, I'll have to pile up my random CDs that are on the floor and just to stack them in random spots. That's the habit of myself as well as other collectors, that if you buy so many albums, they just get disorganized, and it's just something that I just don't want to do at all. Shizazzle, favorite Judas Priest album. My favorite Judas Priest album is Painkiller. Though other favorites, I do love a lot of Defenders of the Faith, Screaming for Vengeance, and I'll have to say that Judas Priest as a band, sometimes to me, are not all heavy metal sounding, because sometimes with Judas Priest, they, for me, have a bit of a sound where they go in a hard rock kind of sound than just heavy metal. And loads of people will actually say the same thing. They are not as heavy as Black Sabbath and not as heavy as Iron Maiden, but I'll have to say that Judas Priest are still counting in as heavy metal, but they sometimes are a bit of more of a hard rock kind of band, in my opinion. And I'm sure many Priest fans would say the same thing. Aiden says to Shizazzle, British Steel. That's a really good album, but in my opinion, I think Breaking the Law and Living After Midnight are the most overrated Judas Priest songs. I gotta go with Painkiller, but their latest album is really good. That's another thing that I need to check out. Their new album. I have heard amazing things about their album Firepower. So I'll have to dig into that. Shazazel again from Aiden, British Steel by Painkiller as well. Defenders of the Faith is another contender. Defenders of the Faith is maybe my second favorite Judas Priest album so far. Rocco Roller is extremely underrated. I've not heard that album at all. And the album cover, original wise, to me is just one of those not really well made album covers from the band. Aiden, Judas Priest is heavier than Iron Maiden. Iron Maiden is more progressive and melodic. I think Iron Maiden sound heavier than Judas Priest. Judas Priest, hard rock, can get heavy. Yes, they do sound heavy, but I think Iron Maiden have a difference with a gloomier and I would say an anthemically deep sound, especially when they go heavier into their albums, like with Power Slave and Brave New World, and as well as Seventh Son of a Seventh Son. I do agree that they can be melodic and progressive, like Seventh Son, but I still say that Iron Maiden, in terms of consistency and tone, they can be more of the diverse, and to me, one of my more favorable sounds than Judas Priest. Judas Priest is one of my favorite bands. Don't get me wrong, but I think Iron Maiden is more of a favorable part. So, Shazazel, I'd say Priest is heavier than Black Sabbath in my opinion, but I can understand the other side. That is a really neat opinion, because Black Sabbath, especially on the earlier albums, they sound really heavy and more of an apocalyptic, doomier sound. But I really think that Iron Maiden's material is more of the virtuoso. I would say the more different sound to Judas Priest and Black Sabbath. But yeah. Anyways, guys. So Shazazel, Judas Priest is probably the most accessible when compared to Maiden and Sabbath. I mean, I think Judas Priest is a band where they can be pretty consistent, but I think out of the three, Iron Maiden is very consistent because you've got some really great, strong amount of albums from the Paul Di'Anno era to the Bruce Dickinson era, from that era and the later era. Black Sabbath, I think they can be the same thing, but not a lot of their albums after Ozzy and Dio can be, following each other very, very well. Though I do really like a lot of the Tony Martin era as much as the two other acclaimed eras from Black Sabbath. And I really like Glenn Hughes with Black Sabbath as well. So, with that being said, anyways, guys, thank you so much. I've got to wrap this up. As I've said, I have to finish this right at the 2-hour mark. It means so much to me that you guys are still tuning into these streams, having a very good time, watching the videos as well, interacting. And I will be doing a lot more of the album reviews. The Classic Albums Revisited episodes will return, and some more collaborative album reviews. So, with that being said, thank you guys for watching. And as always, I will keep you guys posted for more videos in the near future.